Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I'm so glad you're here and I'm so glad you clicked on today's video. We are going to be talking about all the books I'm hoping to read in the month of August. I was trying to decide how I wanted to pick my TBR this month. I was very torn between letting my TBR jar pick it. I was torn between doing a TBR board game because I've seen a ton of people do that and it looks so fun. We're not doing that today, but we might do that next month, so stay tuned for that. But then I did a massive book haul in my last video. It was over 50 books that we went through. Since doing that video, I just want to read like everything. The hardest thing when it comes to picking my monthly TBR is I have so little time and so many books. After filming my book haul video, I was staring at all these books and I was like, oh my gosh, I want to start this one. I want to read that one. So I just decided to pick my own TBR for the month of August. But I will say these are books that I feel like I wouldn't typically pick up, so it's a little bit outside of my comfort zone, and a lot of them are books that I haven't really seen a lot of other people talk about. I feel like the month of August could be a really fun and exciting reading month. If you're familiar with my TBRs, they're usually loaded with romance books, but this month we're definitely leaning more into fantasy and romantasy. I feel like it's gonna be a lot of fun. With that being said though, we're gonna hop right into it. I have a total of 10 books here, and then I think there's 3 books that are coming out in the month of August that are very high on my TBR. We'll get into those after these ones. Your girl's got some dark romance in here. She's a little nervous about it, but it's gonna be fun. I feel like dark romance is always fun. So you know what? We'll start with the dark romance books, then we'll jump into the fantasy books. First book I have is Haunting Adeline by H.D. Carlton. This is a very popular book. I know I just said a lot of these books aren't books that I typically see on Book Talk. I feel like this is a very popular dark romance book talk type of book. This is a book that I've heard so much about. I hear a lot of controversial things about this book. I forgot how I got this book, to be completely honest. I forgot how this ended up on my shelf, but so many of you have been recommending it to me, and a lot of you have been asking me to do like a whole reading vlog on this book to see my reaction to it. I do occasionally dip my toes in dark romance, but I feel like this might be a little bit up on the dark romance scale compared to what I usually read. So this could be a very awesome and fun read or a very scary read. We're gonna find out though in the month of August. I'm gonna read the back of this for you guys. I'm not gonna read the back of every book because I know people don't really like that, but just so you can get a little bit of an idea of what this is about if you haven't read it before. But this is what the back looks like. It says, "The Manipulator. I can manipulate the emotions of anyone who lets me. I will make you hurt, make you cry, make you laugh and sigh. But my words don't affect him, especially not when I plead for him to leave. He's always there watching and waiting, and I can never look away, not when I want him to come closer. The Shadow. I didn't mean to fall in love, but now that I have, I can't stay away. I'm mesmerized by her smile, by her eyes, and the way she moves. I'll keep watching and waiting until I can make her mine. And once she is, I'll never let her go, not even when she begs me to." It's probably gonna be a scary read, not gonna lie. It's honestly giving off You vibes, if you guys are familiar with that show on Netflix with Penn Badgley. That's the vibe I'm getting from this. I'm getting stalker vibes, basically. I'm just thinking back to comments of people saying that they're so scared for me to read this, like they're scared for me, but they're also excited to see my reaction. First book on my August TBR. Next up we have The Sinner's Duet by Sophie Lark. This is 2 books in one. Book 1 is There Are No Saints, and then book 2 is There Is No Devil, and I put this on my TBR this month because I got this in an Eternal Embers special edition box last month, and I'm a big Sophie Lark fan. She is one of the authors that I have read a lot of dark romance from, and I've really enjoyed it. I feel like her books are really good beginner books to get into dark romance because they're not super dark, they're not super intense and scary, but that's why I love them, and that's why I love her as an author. She's one of those really addicting authors too, where when you start one of her books, you literally can't put it down. Like, I fly through her books. They're so fun. They're action-packed. There's a lot of adventure. This was in collaboration with Larry Reitz though, and the box was absolutely stunning. I got some beautiful special editions. This is one of the books out of the box that I have never read, but I've always been interested in reading just because I am a pretty big Sophie Lark fan. This is absolutely stunning though. I love the details. On the back it says, "The man who never cared about anyone is fixated on the girl nobody cares about. In some twisted way, we're made for each other. I can just tell this is going to be so much fun. I also kind of love that it's 2 books in one, because the whole time I'm going to think that I'm reading 1 book, but it's actually going to be 2 books. I don't know too much about this book and what happens in it, but I believe our MMC does bad things for a living. Our FMC is an artist who is trying to recover from her very traumatic past and childhood. But obviously there's so much more to the storyline, and I'm sure there's going to be so much craziness and action, and it's going to be really fun. I'm super excited for it. Oh, you know what? I do have these books as well. I forgot I added these in. This is a Kennedy Ryan set that I got from Eternal Embers as well. They're 2 romances by Kennedy Ryan. I have never read anything by her, but I feel like I've seen a lot on her, and a lot of people like her romances, her characters, her stories, so I am very excited to try these out. The covers, not my favorite. You guys know I'm not big on people on the covers. Even though they're real people, they look very nice. I think these are really cool additions. Backs are really cool. My favorite part is actually the inside artwork. I think this is gorgeous. It's the city skyline. So book 1 is the Kingmaker and book 2 is the Rebel King. From what I've read and what I've heard about this, basically our FMC in this book hates the father of our MMC because he stole from her family or did something really terrible, and our MMC will do anything to get her and keep her. I feel like this is going to be a really interesting storyline. I'm interested to know like what the father did. I feel like the Kennedy Ryan books aren't really dark romance, but from what I was reading, they kind of sound like they're on the more twisted side. Now we're gonna hop into the fantasy books that I picked out for this month. We're gonna start off with this one that I actually just got yesterday. I wasn't planning on getting any books, but this one stood out to me and I am just so excited to start it. It's called Beautiful Villain by Rebecca Kenny. I'm loving the gold detail. Right off the bat, I kind of knew it was going to be in the fantasy realm, and I first read this. 7 years ago, I lost him for good. Now he's back, but is he still the Jay Gatsby? The Great Gatsby, guys. Is he still the Jay Gatsby I used to know, or is he something more? Something darker. So right away I was so excited because The Great Gatsby is one of my favorite books. It's one of my favorite films. It is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. So I'm like, okay, this is really cool because we're kind of getting a Great Gatsby retelling. Immediately I was super intrigued. I read through the back and I was like, okay, I have to get this book because it sounds so fun. Basically this is a retelling of The Great Gatsby, but it takes place in modern time, which I feel like is really, really cool. And it's fantasy, even cooler. Basically our FMC is Daisy and she's super excited to start summer vacation and prepare for the next chapter in her life. And then our MMC is Jay. He basically is holding an exclusive party. Naturally, of course he is. And Daisy and her cousin attend it, but when Daisy's cousin goes missing, she has to confront the mysterious host of the party, who ends up being Jay. And basically all the crazy stuff happens in between. Jay gets shot through the heart and survives. So right away, Daisy's like, how did you survive that? That kind of leads into our bigger story and what Jay Gatsby really is. This just sounds so fun because it's Great Gatsby meets fantasy. Next up, we have The Shadows Between Us by Trisha Levenseller. I actually picked this up the other day because my July Fairy Loop book was The Darkness Within Us, which is book 2 to this book. This is one of the books I haven't really heard too much about. When I was reading the synopsis and reading about the characters, it sounds really, really interesting. Alessandra is tired of being overlooked, but she has a plan to gain power. Woo the Shadow King, marry him, kill him, and take his kingdom for herself. Alessandra is not the only one trying to kill the king. As attempts on his life are made, she finds herself trying to keep him alive long enough for him to make her his queen, all while struggling not to lose her heart. This sounds fun and exciting and very much up my alley. It's a book I have not heard anything about, so I'm definitely going into this series completely blind. Nonetheless, I'm super excited about it. It sounds like a really fun type of fantasy read. She's also the author of Daughter of the Pirate King and that trilogy, and I've heard such incredible things about those books as well, but I'm actually really hoping we get some good banter in this. I feel like there's a lot of potential for it. Next up, I have A Kiss of Iron by Claire Sager. This is actually the first book I've ever received from the Bookish box, and it is absolutely stunning. I'm obsessed with this entire thing. The quality is also like top notch, guys. I don't think I've ever had such like a nice quality feeling book. Our FMC is Kat, and she's basically on the verge of losing everything. She is super poor. She has nothing to her name, and she gets offered this very well-paid job, but also super dangerous job. She's basically recruited by the court to go and spy on this super high Fae Lord. Right away, Kat is very intrigued and drawn to this High Lord, but she doesn't know if he's actually a threat to her kingdom or to her heart. She's playing a very dangerous game of desire and deceit. She's trying to push him to reveal his secrets to her, but she's finding along the way that she's falling for the enemy. And as she keeps exploring and finding out more secrets, she's finding that maybe everything back at home and back in the court isn't actually as it seems. And it turns out that her court might be the ones actually being deceitful. So I feel like this is going to be a really fun, epic, adventurous type of romantasy. I'm honestly really excited for this one. Next up, we have Lightlark by Alex Astor. This is a super popular book talk book. This is actually my book club pick of the month over on Fable and Patreon. So excited for this, mainly because I've seen such cool fan art for this book and these characters, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm actually so excited for this. Basically, every 100 years, the island of Lightlark appears, and there's this deadly game that's hosted, kind of giving Hunger Game vibes. The rulers of the 6 realms come together and fight to break the curses that they have on them. Our FMC in this is Isla Crowned, and she has to lie, betray, and deceit in this book to win power and break the curse on her. But naturally, love complicates everything. I'm pretty sure this is a love triangle, so already I'm really intrigued. Like I said, I've seen such beautiful fan art for this series, and I have to see what it's all about. This could be one of my favorite books of the year. Next up, we have The Wicked King by Holly Black. This is book 2 in the Cruel Prince trilogy. I read The Cruel Prince, I want to say 2 months ago. I decided to up my rating to 4 stars, and now we are jumping into book 2, which is The Wicked King, and I am so excited to continue on the story of Jude and Cardan because their story is so different. Going into The Cruel Prince, I don't know what I expected, but it wasn't that. Our FMC is Jude. She is a normal human orphan who is thrown into the world of fairies, and in the fairy world, they despise humans. They can't stand them. Our MMC though is Cardan, and he is the cruel prince. He's the prince of the fairies. Him and Jude literally hate each other, guys. Like, they do some despicable things to each other throughout The Cruel Prince where I'm just like, how's this gonna play out? Like, what's gonna happen here? Book 2 is The Wicked King. It's continuing on the story of Jude and Cardan. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be wild. I am hoping for a little bit more romance in here. Although the romance was small in The Cruel Prince, it was so epic. Like, the romance was honestly epic in that book, and I am so excited to see how it continues on in The Wicked King. This is another series that has such beautiful fan art out there. I've actually recently been getting into those AI book talk accounts that basically create the magical worlds of all of our favorite fantasy books. First one I ever saw was an ACOTAR one, and it was so stinking cool, guys. That's actually why I ended up picking up The Cruel Prince a few months ago. I'm obsessed with reading fantasy books and then looking up AI worlds of it. It's so cool. It's so fun. I highly recommend. These are all of the books that I'm planning to read in the month of August, and then as I mentioned, there are 3 new releases that are coming out in August that are very high on my TBR. First up, we have Wisteria by Adeline Grace. I am pumped for this book, guys. You have no idea. I read Belladonna and Foxglove a few months ago. Obsessed is an understatement. I'm not even kidding. These are basically gothic romantasies. The first 2 books in the series revolve around a girl named Signa who is an orphan, and she basically can see and talk to ghosts, but she can also communicate with death, which is absolutely unheard of. That's never been done before. The books revolve around her navigating this weird life that she's starting to live. There's also a murder mystery in each book, which I was not expecting, but I loved it and I ate it up, and it was so much fun. If you haven't read those books, highly recommend. Wisteria is the final book in the trilogy, and I am so excited for this book, guys, because the way that Foxglove leaves off, I just know Wisteria is going to be epic. It's probably going to be my favorite book out of the series, to be completely honest. I just can't wait to read about my favorite characters. I'm so excited. I can't say too much about it because it is the 3rd book in the series, and if I said anything about what that book's going to be about, I would quite literally spoil everything for you guys. So highly recommend picking up Belladonna, picking up Foxglove. You will not regret it. Pick it up in the fall time. I feel like the vibes would be really good during the fall time. Then we have Apprentice to the Villain by Hannah Nicole Mayer. This is coming out August 6th, so in a few few days. I read Assistant to the Villain last year. This is book 1. If you haven't read this book, please read this book. It is so much fun. It gives off fairy tale vibes, except our FMC falls for the villain. I think this is a really interesting and fun type of romantasy because it does give off fairy tale vibes, but in this world, the villain is actually kind of the good guy, even though he's portrayed as the bad guy, and our main character is Eevee. I should have known I was gonna love this book from the beginning because her name is Eevee, and that's my favorite Pokemon. But anyways, Eevee is basically desperate for work, and she ends up accepting this job to be the assistant to the villain, and the villain doesn't know what to do with her because she's not afraid of him. It kind of starts this fascination he has with her because he's like, why doesn't this girl care? Why is she not afraid of me like everyone else? So it's really fun and action-packed type of fantasy. Book 2, I am so excited for because this naturally leaves off on the craziest cliffhanger. So I'm really excited to read book 2 and continue on their story. And then the last book I have on my August TBR is Daydream. This is book 3 in the Maple Hills series by Hannah Grace. She's the author of Icebreaker and Wildfire. They're basically like interconnected standalone hockey romances, although book 2 didn't really revolve around hockey as much as book 1 did. Book 2 actually took place in the summer at like a camp. It was really fun. I really liked book 2, but book 1 still has my heart. Icebreaker was so much fun. They're basically like fluffy type of romances. A lot of people don't really like them. They say that the storylines are really bland and boring. I personally love them. They just give you like those happy butterflies when you're reading. Super excited to continue on the series though in book 3, which is Daydream. This revolves around another hockey player from the Maple Hills hockey team. I believe our FMC like works at the library or works at a bookshop, something like that. Automatically, I'm so excited for that because I love romances that take place in libraries. Those are all the books on my August TBR though. I am so excited because I feel like August is going to be such a fun reading month. Now that I'm settled too in my new home, I feel like I really can just read, sit back, relax. Let me know down below what's on your TBR for the month of August. We have some fun stuff planned for the month of August, guys. I am so excited. But with all that being said though, I love you guys so much, and I'll see you in the next one.